Hello and welcome to the 2025 Season 3 Week 8 Track Guide by Team Conti Sim Performance. We are looking at the NASCAR NextGen car at Watkins Glen coming up this week. As we do with all road courses, we'll take you for a quick ride around the track in the car at speed. We'll go ahead and we'll show that first. And then I'll get out of the car and we'll do a deep dive into what all is going on, line choice, braking markers, gear selection, some things to watch out for. Just a good general overview of how to be successful this coming week at Watkins Glen. Pretty straightforward road course, one of the, I would say, easiest on the schedule, but there are a lot of nuances that will help you get the last couple tenths out of it, and the last little bit being um, being that you have to go over bumps and curbs and things. It is hard to get out of the car, so we'll go over that in just a bit, and hopefully this will help you all going into next week. But without further ado, we will put ourselves in the car here, slide that field of view forward, and we'll go for a ride around the car, and I'll be back after this lap is over. All right, and there you have a full lap around Watkins Glen from within the car. Pretty good lap overall. A little bit here and there that could have been better, but very representative of what a competitive lap will look like this coming week. So we'll go back to the start finish line here, and we'll take this one corner at a time, really break it down, and go over what all went into that lap and how it was fast. So coming down the hill right here, I like to use this caution light as not necessarily my brake marker, but from within the car, I know that as I'm about to cross this, I really need to start getting on the brakes, get the car slowed down for turn one. So as I slow-mo forward here, you can see just before it is when I start to lift. Now, from within the car, it's happening so quickly, I feel like I'm lifting at the caution light. But we can see right here, it's maybe a car length and change before this caution light. I'm going to start lifting, braking heavily, and with the master cylinders that we have in our TCSP Open setup this week, you can use 100% brake pressure without locking up the tire into turn one. You need to make sure that if you're doing that, you're being decisive with your brake input. And what I mean by that is you want to get to that 100% quickly in this decel zone. You don't want to be hesitant and go from like 80 and then try to get to 100 down here as you're downshifting and turning the wheel, because anything you do with the transmission or with the wheel is going to upset the balance of the car, and that 100% brake pressure may then not be possible without locking up a front tire. Like this 100% brake pressure is right at the limit of the front tire, meaning that if I make the slightest mistake, I might lock it up. So I'm still using the threshold braking methodology here. I'm braking to the limit of the front axle. But with that, because of how the brakes are in this car now and all that, I can go to 100% and actually slow the car and not lock them up. So that's different from years past. Going down to second gear into turn one. So if I back up a little bit, downshift, downshift. So we're going from fourth gear at our max speed down the front stretch down to second gear. And as I slow this down, so start to brake, 100% brake, there's third, there's second. And you can see now I've come off that 100% brake as I get deeper into the deceleration zone, but I'm still at 90-ish%. So tons and tons of brake necessary to get into turn one. If you do not use that amount of brake pressure, you'll have to back up your braking zone, which is just going to cost you lap time and leave you vulnerable to people out braking you into one and making the pass. Biggest thing right here when we think about the line is you want to keep as tight to the left-hand side of the track as possible. Left side tire is all but touching the grass, and make a very aggressive arc into turn one. So you can really get down into that dip right by the apex curb and then throttle off as straight as possible and over the exit curb. So getting down into the corner here, we're in second gear, slowly releasing the brake and just starting to turn in maybe 3 or 4 car lengths before we get to the actual beginning of turn one. Still 50% brake, trailing off, trailing off. You can see really trailing off now. Because if I keep that brake at that 50+% mark as I'm using this amount of wheel and I'm turning, I'm just going to lock up a front tire. So for me to have good front turn without any type of hindrance in the front axle locking up a tire, I've got to get off that brake. So I'm off the brake, still using a little bit to trail brake in, and I'll trail brake to that apex curb. And like in years past, you can touch this exterior part of the inner curb. You do not want to touch this interior part of the inner curb because it will upset the car. You'll bottom out the underbody and you will not be able to make the exit. So just go to this seam right here. Off the brake finally. And now I have almost 90 degrees of wheel. I think if I look in Garage 61, it's like 75 degrees or so. But point being, lots of wheel. So when I have that much wheel, when I start to get on the throttle, I need to get that wheel back to center as quickly as I can so I can continue to increase throttle. If I keep the wheel over here and I smash the throttle down, I'm probably going to spin immediately. If I don't spin, I'm just going to shove, and I'm going to be way outside the curb, and I'll be out of track limits, and the lap will be invalidated. So you can see here, I slowly start to get on the gas, and maybe slowly is not the right word. I get on the gas in a moderate manner, but I keep it there because I still have that wheel cranked. Now eventually that wheel is going to come back to center. Here it comes. And as I get to maybe call that 40-ish degrees, 30 to 40 degrees, now I'm like at 10 degrees. Now I'm really starting to increase throttle. And when I get to this curb is an absolute nightmare. I want that wheel to be as straight as possible. I don't necessarily want to be at 100% throttle as I crest this curb either, because the underbody of the car gets hung up on this curb as you cross over it. And the more angle you have as you cross it, whether it be with the car itself or with the wheel, or if you're using too much throttle, as you come over this curb, so as I get to right about here, if I don't have a straight wheel and appropriate throttle, and not a whole lot of, call it slip angle, left rear hanging out here, that thing will get caught up and hung up, and you will not be able to make forward momentum down into turn two, the start of the S's. So super, super important to go over this curb straight. Straight over the curb. Not like this. Not like, oh, I'm going to be way out here and I'm going to get out here early. No, just get down to the apex curb. Play with the throttles so that when you get to it, you're straight over the curb. Almost running the car parallel to it, but obviously not because you do have to get over it. So cross the curb, and when you get across the curb, you can get to full throttle. As soon as you kind of get over this lip right here, you can full throttle it as long as it's not hung up. And as you go through the short chute between turn one and turn two, you're going to be going from second gear to third gear and then to fourth, right as you're exiting off of this curb into turn two. As far as the line goes, if you get your right sides any farther out than right about here, you're going to have a 1X. If you're way over here, you're going to have a slowdown as you go up the S's. So it's very tricky to place your car in the right spot as you cross this curb without either being too far left and having a slowdown, too far left and having a 1X, or not far left enough and then you're too pinched into two. So the farther left you can get through this section, the more of an angle you can take into two, and that'll just keep the front turning and allow you to get up the hill with a more neutral balance and more speed. The more pinched you are, the less front turn you're going to have, the more you're going to have to slow down, and that's going to kill your speed all the way up the hill. So don't get anywhere farther to the left of this. I guess this is concrete. But right here is fine, and I'll probably move. Yeah, see, I move over a little bit. So I go into third gear there. I move over, and then I start cutting it back in right here. I want to make as straight of a shot as possible into the beginning of the S's. And right there is the shift. So as soon as I'm crossing over this curb, I'm going to fourth gear. I find that that's better. Some people might keep it in third gear and run third up the hill and then short shift to fourth at the top of the hill, which would be turn 3. To each their own. I might change this up if I'm in traffic or if I'm later in the run and I'm going slower, maybe I keep it in third. But for a hot lap like this, go to fourth as you cross the curb back onto the track. So up to fourth, right there, and then just playing with the throttle all the way up through here. Almost all the way out of the throttle. I'm just trying to get this nose to cut in. I want to have the right front on the painted line. I don't want it on the curb. The curb upsets the car. The painted line is grip. And I want to wrap this line all the way up the hill. And then right there, you can see that's that big change in direction. And you need to have an aggressive change in direction up here so you can get over the top of the hill with good speed and front turn. If you're lazy with your change of direction, because you can see, I mean, it is bam, right there. A little lift, really slow it down. You're going to watch the lift right there. And with that lift, there is a little bit of wheel too. So you see the lift, now watch the wheel. The wheel flicks, lift. So flick and lift. Flick the wheel, then lift. And now you can see as I'm coming up across the top of this hill, I'm angled toward the curb and I'm in good shape. I've got a lot of slip right here. And frankly, this wasn't even the best top of the hill I had done. So you could do better than this. But this was pretty good. The main thing is you want to stay as far right to the possible as you go up the hill in turn 2 here, so you can extend that angle into 3. Up the hill, fourth gear, flick it in, and you can see there's a little bit of room right there. I'd like to be a little bit farther to the left. You can use this curb at the top of the hill to help the car turn. Got to be careful though because it might overslip the rear and make you too loose, but this curb is okay to hit. I did not get to it. So you'll see right here I really have to play with that throttle a lot more left lock because I didn't have the best front turn, but it was okay. So playing it at speed here. Lift, keep it tight to the right, and flick back to the left. This is all fourth gear. Up and over the hill. Now this is pretty easy. All fourth into fifth. Full throttle. Bam, into fifth. Now we're going to spot the braking zone. So we got a 600 marker. We're braking just before the 6. I would say the 6 or just before is good. If you're newer to road racing or this car or racing in general, if your skill level at this point does not allow you to brake at the 6, that's fine. You can brake back here somewhere. You got a nice caution light. Get some stuff back here. So brake earlier. You do not want to overshoot the bus stop because you will probably crash. So if you have to lift a little bit earlier, do that. But if you are going for all-out pace, definitely braking at that 6 or slightly after is probably going to be it. So you're going from 5th gear, 4th gear to 3rd gear. So 3rd gear into the beginning of the bus stop. Now again, just like the shift pattern into the S's, some keep it in 3rd. I short shift to 4th. My shift pattern in the bus stop may differ from others. Some people keep it in 3rd all the way through the bus stop. I think that lugs the car a little bit too much. So you'll see I will cross this first curb in 3rd, and then in between the first curb and the second curb, I'll downshift to 2nd, and I'll run 2nd through the rest of the bus stop into the middle of the carousel. But we'll get to that in a second. So into the bus stop here, I'm really going to slow this down. That little bit of throttle right there, it's one of those things where I have to say, do what I say, not what I do. I am hanging throttle at that point to settle the rear. okay? Because if we look at the downshifting here, this is aggressive. Aggressive downshifting, and you can almost hear in the second one. I'll cut out. Listen to the second downshift. You can almost hear right there the rear tires are starting to hop or oscillate more. So to get a little bit of that oscillation out of the car, I just keep a little bit of throttle into it to settle the rear. That is a technique that is not for beginners. Uh, it's not something I would really want anybody to do necessarily, unless you feel like, hey, I'm a really good sim racer. I can start doing some more of this abstract nuance stuff to unlock the last couple hundredths. But that's all that is. That's to settle the rear. If you watched our track guides before, specifically mine, and you watch me get on the pit road, sometimes I'll talk about keeping a little bit of throttle in the car as I get off the banking to settle the rear. Same technique here, just actually at speed to make lap time. So that I just want to point that out because that's not a mistake. My throttle isn't hanging. I'm doing that purposely, but I don't necessarily want you all to do it unless you feel like you can add that to your toolkit and make it work. So going into the bus stop, third gear. Biggest thing is cut this as much as possible. You want to straight line this curb as best as you can. You basically want to be hitting this guardrail, which, kudos to me. If I could find the actual camera here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. That's what you want to do. You want to extend this as much as possible because that is going to set you up better into the next corner. So you're hopping over this curb, and then right there, that's the downshift. So let's listen to it. Right there. So I mean, as soon as I land, bang, downshift into second. That's helping me slow the car down. That's a little bit more engine braking, which is definitely helpful here because you're trying to go from what, 175, 180 down to, yeah, almost 100 miles an hour. But down to second, right there. And biggest thing is you want to use as much of this inner left curb as possible. A little bit of brake over that, and then a little bit of throttle to drive out of it. Clip the grass there a little bit. That was nice. And then this curb right here, you don't want to go straight over it because it's too tall. You will bottom out the bottom of the car and crash. So just clip that one with like half the car. And then coming out of the bus stop here, you want to be as far right as possible over this curb. Still in second gear. And then when you get out of there, you don't want to be any higher than where I'm at. You don't want to make this entry to the carousel from all the way out here. You're just going to lose time and have no front turn. You're going to be making the entry to the carousel from the middle of the track. So in doing that, just make sure you're not carrying too much speed across this last curve. Let's go one more time at speed. Fourth, third, second. Playing with the throttle all the way through here. And now into the carousel, a little bit of brake. There's the third right there. So, boom, third. And then I start getting on the throttle. If I try to exit the carousel in second gear, I find that it spins the tires too much. Or I'm having to shift at a really awkward place. Like if I'm trying to exit in second gear, I'm having to shift right here because that gear is too short. So in putting it in third, just gets that shift out of the way, and then I can just focus on throttling up on exit. Nice wide exit over here, straight over this curb. You don't want to hit the curb over here because that'll hang up the underbody. You want to make sure that you're hitting it a little bit farther down the road. Biggest thing through the carousel is, again, do not run on top of this curbing, but make sure that you stay tight to the yellow line. There's a lot of grip down there. Third gear, open the wheel up and just straight shot out here. No track limits here. Bring it back onto the track. Fourth gear down this backstretch. Start braking just at the grass. 100% brake for a moment again, I believe. Yep, there it is. Third gear. Second gear. Right there. And you'll see brake is releasing. Wheel is increasing. I've got that little bit of throttle again to settle the rear. off the brake, back on the throttle. That inner curb is good, helps you create some rotation. It's a very sharp exit too, so use as much here as possible so you can not be on the wrong side of the curb off of 6. Second gear on the curb, hit the chip, get back to the left, and then just clip that entry curb a little bit again and straight shot off of 7. So let's look at that lap again here. Caution light, third, second, apex curb there, straight out and over the curb, do not go outside this concrete. Third gear, fourth gear, play with the throttle, keep it wrapped to the right, flicking back to the left, play with the throttle over the hill, fourth gear, up to 5th on the exit there. About 90% brake into here, 4th, 3rd, over the curb 2nd, tight left, back to the right, little bit of brake right there, and then roll into 3rd, there's 3rd, and slowly start rolling onto the throttle, extend the track width to the left on the exit of the carousel, brake at the grass, 3rd, 2nd, little interior curb there, bang the chip, hard brake, into 7, flip the curb, straight shot out, and that'll complete your lap at Watkins Glen. So a few more things to note here before we wrap this one up. We'll talk about tire wear really quickly because it has changed since the last time we were here. So tires do wear out, and they wear out a lot. There is significant lap time fall off, especially as the track temperatures increase. Track temps are high this week, over 110 degrees, so tires will be a thing. Now, with that being said, in your A Open races, it's a 35 lap race. You can go about 34 laps and change on gas. You factor in the pace lap, you can probably save enough gas in these races to make it to the end without stopping. And I think that will probably be your best bet, is to not stop. But you're going to be saving gas, and you are going to have to save some tire as well. In my 10 lap run, my rear tires were already in the 70s, specifically the left sides. So you think about it, if I'm down to the 70s in 10 laps, I multiply that by 3, my rear tires are basically going to be shot at the end of the race. So obviously, without doing a race, I don't exactly know where the tire wear is going to fall. I think it's going to get better throughout the race as rubber's put down. So I don't think people are going to be blowing tires out, but just something to watch for. But moral of the story is, in your A Opens, you probably want to save the gas, not pit, and just go straight through. NIS will be different. If it's half the real life distance, that's 45. You're definitely stopping once. You're probably going to split it in half and do that. Your pit road entry is right here. You want to make sure that you spot that. Make sure you're down to pit road speed at that line. Practice that at least once or twice before you get into a race. And then pit exit's a little bit funky too with the guardrail, so make sure you know what's going on there as well. Otherwise, though, I think that is about it for Watkins Glen. It's a pretty deep dive into each corner, what I'm looking at, what I'm doing, and why I'm doing it. So hopefully that is of help. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe to us if you're not a client, or you are a client and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It helps the channel out a ton. Also, engaging with the video is great as well. Helps it get out there a little bit more and just helps us continue to grow the Team Conti Sim Performance community, which is ultimately what we want to do. Want to be here a long time, and growth is how we're going to be able to make that happen. Otherwise, though, that is it. We are under 30 minutes this week, so that's great. I'll give everybody 5 minutes back or so. Thank you so much for watching. From myself, Michael Conti, and the rest of the TCSP crew, thank you for your support of this channel and the business, and we will see you next time.